Alright, folks, today's poem is actually a prayer. It's the prayer for accepting your personal erginess. This is written anonymously and was submitted to the heathen prayer book, Be Thou My Hearth and Shield, edited by Elizabeth von Viseth. And this time I said them both right, look at me. This is a heathen prayer book. I really enjoy it, use a lot of prayers from it. Highly recommend it to any heathen, Northern tradition, Northern Germanic type person. So what is Ergi? Ergi has come to be considered a term almost analogous to queer in modern times. In a lot of communities you see, a lot of heathen queer communities, which I apparently am in because they exist, which is great. Or I just happen to know a lot of queer heathens. Either way, works for me. I see people who, describe themselves as ergi, and it works because we understand what it means. There's a background to it that makes it a little bit more... It actually may be very analogous to queer in that they're both words that start out fairly negative, or are fairly negative. Ergi was one of three words that... three things that if you called a man, he could challenge you to physical combat for the insult. It implied some kind of lack of masculinity. Men who did magic were considered ergi. Specifically men who did save magic, women's magic. Why were they considered ergi for this? I've heard a couple of different theories. One is that the penetrative nature of, what's the word I'm looking for, of mediumship, of being, ridden by spirits, of talking to the dead in that kind of mediumship way, of having spirits move through you. I've heard that, maybe why it was considered ergi, because of that, metaphorical penetrativeness. Then there's theories that, vulvas got up to weird sex magic, and, maybe that's a thing, maybe they did, maybe there was, a dick that you had to sit on, I don't know. Maybe the high seat was a throne of dicks. Either way, ergi has a fairly negative connotation to it in the sagas, and I just wanted to kind of at least address that, for at least anybody who comes here first, and doesn't know what that is, and is like, oh, what is this? Okay, it's a little bit of history. What else about ergi? Penetrative nature of magic, maybe sex magic. One of those things where, you call a dude something because it's okay for a woman, and then it's not okay, and it's Anyway. Go Google it. That's how I learned about ergi. And I do use it in a fairly positive way. We used to jokingly refer to the group of tents at FSG where me and my brother stayed as Camp Ergi, because why not? Because we are, and we do those things, and we're all kind of queering it up in this bitch, so anyway. This anonymously written prayer for accepting one's personal erginess is something I hope that other people find useful as well. Kind of jumped out at me as something that I wouldn't have necessarily picked to read, but maybe people want to hear or need to hear. So, here we go. To Frey, who loves both women and men, and anything in between, or neither, who is constantly erect with lust for life itself, all life, the beauty of the world, help me to see that my own difference is beautiful, and that my sexuality is beautiful, for I am part of the world, part of the beauty of the world, which you willingly give yourself for each year. May these bells on my robe ring out with the celebration of life. To Loki, shapeshifter, who has been both man and woman, and who has been both and neither, who has been animal, plant, and elemental force, who dances the spiral and breaks worlds of perception, shocks us out of complacency and into ever-evolving understanding. Help me to shapeshift with ease into the role they want me to play, into the role that others may scorn, yet cannot stop thinking about. Let us dance together, becoming one form, then another, as the bells on my robe ring out, with the celebration of life. To Odin, seeker of wisdom, who will do anything it takes to know more, and yet more. You blinded yourself to see better. You hung yourself to be empty of self, and filled with the wisdom of the well in the tree. You took skirts to know what Freya knows. Help me to gain wisdom in this experience of being other. Help me to learn what is necessary. For this path I am on, let us to see what is hidden, and to see what is in plain sight, with different eyes, as we dance together, becoming one form, then another, as the bells on my robe ring out, with the celebration of life. To Freya, who loves and lusts for all men, as well as the beauty of the feminine, you who demand that men who would know your say don skirts and be set apart, and women who would know your warrior spirit challenge the notions of being soft and gentle. Help me to find balance within myself, the balance of masculine and feminine, so I am where I need to be, to work magic, to honor the magic within you. Let us work the threads of weird, as we see what is hidden, and see what is in plain sight, with different eyes, and dance together, becoming one form, then another, as the bells on my robe ring out, with the celebration of life. So, it's a little sad to me that the poem's anonymous, because sometimes it makes me... You want to think about who the author is, but I can also see the point of why they kept it anonymous, because it almost makes it easier to relate to. Yeah. Sorry, I'm crying.